All right, it is 7:03 on September 20th, 2023. A call to order a regular meeting of the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. First, so we all know all board director members are present, so we have quorum. No one is absent today. So we'll go ahead and go into citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens to be heard signed up?
No, Mr. President.
Okay, so we will now close our open session and we'll move on to our consent agenda items. All consent agenda items listed below are considered routine by EDC staff and are intended to be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless the director requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Do I have any requests to remove any of the consent agenda items? With no request for removal, I will entertain a motion for approval of consent agenda items number 3 through 7.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, so all consent agenda items are approved. We're gonna go into, before we go into our items for individual consideration, we're going to go through updates from our different committees, and I'm going to do them a little bit different order we have here on this, because I think we're going to have a little bit of discussion about some of our committee notes here that then we'll move into item that we have in our individual consideration. So let's go ahead and jump to the building evaluation committee meeting. Was there any meetings between now and the last meeting, our last regular meeting?
No, sir.
Okay, so that's an easy one. So we'll move on to governance committee. Did governments convene anytime in the last month?
No new information for the governance committee.
Okay, very good. Finance committee. All right, finance committee did meet.
Yes, it was a virtual meet, and it was all approved, unanimously approved.
Okay, very good. So that was just what they were approving is the financial report for August. So then we'll move into our executive committee meeting, and Melody's provided some great notes on the executive committee. I was not able to meet with the executive committee, so it was John and Melody and Glenn Goolsby, our director. So really from the executive committee, John, Melody, y'all want to take lead on which I'll discuss?
That was so long ago.
Time flies.
Mhm.
Mostly what we talked about were just some of the upcoming agenda items and kind of reviewing the final topics on the budget, reviewing the plans that we're getting back and discussing some use cases for that, and just some brainstorming session, for lack of a better descriptor, on some things that we can do coming up in the next fiscal year.
Okay. And Glenn, is it okay or appropriate, or do we have the ability to talk about our community enhancement meeting that we had with the mayor?
I'll do that under number 9.
Okay, so we'll wait till number 9 to do that. So I guess the tie-in is that there were some items discussed in executive committee that's going to tie in with our number 9 discussion item. So with that, we'll go ahead and just jump on into number 9. So number 9, under individual items for individual consideration, a discussion of and direction on allocating funding for the city of Helotes park improvements to include new program equipment and consideration of other facilities. So this is not an action item in the sense of approval or disapproval at this point, but this is really about coming up with direction for Glenn going into, because this could directly affect our item number 10, which is our budget. So we really have to have good direction for him in order for us to be able to approve item number 10. So with that, do I have a motion to open up discussion on item number 9 as presented?
I'll move that we discuss item number 9 as written.
Okay, have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. With that, I'll open up the discussion on it just so I can kind of bring everybody up to speed on what we're going to be discussing specifically. So we did have a meeting on, Melody has such great notes.
That you can't read.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they're in very light text, but I can read through it. So on September 7th, there was a meeting with Ms. Mayor Whitehead, Councilman Merchant, Marion Mendoza, our city administrator, who is our also our liaison here on the board, myself, Melody, our secretary, and Glenn, our director. So really the purpose of the meeting is to come up with some thoughts on, and I know we've had discussions in this past of, is there any money that we have within our budgeting prowess to put towards the quality of life items that are in, and trying to figure out and prioritize what those items are as far as needs go. And so it really revolved around, what are immediate needs that need to happen, what the costs are, and what EDC's role would be in that. So the different items that came up, one item was replacement of the playground equipment here at this city park here in the back. There's been talk of putting in a dog park over at the 1560 City Park, which is a disc golf park. Putting a playground equipment at that same park. Also, there's a couple of other smaller items out there that they are needing lighting for school zones, safety purposes, and also what was the other benches at the disc golf park. So those were all. It was kind of here's all these items that have been identified by the mayor and council members as items that are out there that could use EDC's help and help funding those improvements. And so it really led into good discussions of like, all right, what are the real priorities of what these are? What are they going to cost? And then what do we have in our ability to budget for them? So the one that jumped out the most as far as priority is the replacement of this playground equipment here at the city park in there at the back. I don't know if y'all have seen it lately, but it is pretty old. It's made out of, it's not probably the most modern materials. The fall zones, probably not up to what codes are nowadays as far as safety goes. And so there is a pretty good need for the replacement of the equipment. And then from there you start thinking about, all right, and then the other improvements move over to the disc golf course. And in good discussions we had out of that was, as you do improvements at the disc golf course, then does that cause problems as we discussed before? Then we start having parking issues because now you've attracted a lot of people to the golf course or to the park, and the parking is inadequate. But then does putting in parking then affect the disc golf layout? And does that disc golf layout then affect the track layout? And does that then affect the location of the dog park? So it's kind of a sequence of events that will happen as the improvements happen. So thoughts that we've had in it, and this is I'm thinking, and what's also was discussed in the executive committee meeting was, all right, instead of us just saying, all right, let's just go build something right now, is really trying to come up with almost like a master plan, right? Of like, all right, here's what ultimately what we want the park to look like. And here's the order, the sequence of what these improvements need to happen. And then from there, we can then, from a budgeting standpoint, be able to budget in those improvements over a period of time. So I think that is kind of a summary, I guess, of a meeting with our meeting that we had with the mayor and Councilman Merchant. And then also what came out of the executive committee meeting is really trying to be smart about these improvements and if we know what they're coming and we know how much they're going to cost, then we can also budget accordingly. So that's my discussion point on it. Why don't we start? Joel, why don't you, we'll go left to right, and that way we'll get everybody's input on it.
I like some of these notes that are the ideas that we're considering, whether it's polling residents or creating a committee of folks to really discuss and find where those needs are. I mean, I know it's been discussed in this meeting here, but maybe even utilizing our software that we have to see who is utilizing the park and things like that. We have, I can't remember the name of the software off the top of my head, but
Placer.
thank you. And I do have strong concerns about the parking at the park and putting more money into that. The one time that I've been to the park, parking was horrendous, especially for a truck. And not that that matters, but it was hard to maneuver just out of the spot in general. And yeah, I don't know, that would definitely need to be addressed before we attract more people to the park or put a significant amount of money into that, into doing things there. And then finally, I guess my question is are these EDC projects, or is this funding from the EDC to the city to then manage and take care of those things? And are we splitting that cost? What does that look like? And that would be something I would hope could come out of either that committee or we would finalize that along the way here.
Okay, that's good. Great input. Yeah, I like the idea of the committee part of it for sure.
Yeah, we did discuss in the executive about that, about how the best way, is it in the EDC? Because example, the signage, I mean, that comes back, that the historic trend of that. So one of the things that at least we felt on the park thing, it would become a city project, like EDC funds part of it, all of it, whatever it is. But the city takes responsibility from that point on to maintain and to ensure that, mulch gets replaced, whatever needs to be replaced, fixed, and so forth in the future, because otherwise then it's coming back to the EDC for, whatever it is. It should be, we felt, as the city felt, that it should end up being the city's responsibility at that point to manage it and maintain it, regardless if it's the playground equipment here, and then, or the dog park over there, and whatever it is. And so we felt that that would be the best, at least on a city standpoint.
Yeah. And I think, Joel, it also, some of it probably is going to be project dependent, whether we say, all right, this is going to be a EDC project, that obviously our staff would then have to be responsible for managing the project,
Right.
As opposed to just writing a check and, then the city taking it from there. So kind of goes back into the, let's figure out what we're going to do. And then from there, we can say, all right, yeah, this is totally something that the city should handle, or this is something that EDC has the expertise, I guess they'll call it, to be able to handle whatever that project is.
I have one other thing, I guess it's a question for you, Mayor.
Mhm.
Is this space here at the city, and I'm the playground equipment, I haven't seen it in recent history to be able to remember the exact size of it, but is that not space that the city could use for police, fire, or other city services here on these grounds, and move that playground equipment, or not remove it and then place playground equipment somewhere else like the park area? Has that been considered? Or is that not needed?
Well, of course, any extra space is always great, but what we've seen in the past is this park does get utilized because it is I don't know if y'all know that this is actually considered like a spot on the trailhead parks. So this is actually, if you see that there's a plaque over there at that park and there's a plaque over here. So it is considered that. So we want to keep that to attract people to come and look, at the area, and it's advertised in the trailhead. So it's already there. Secondly, is we talked about parking space, and we're actually adding more parking space. I don't know if you know, right behind where we have the covered police area, right behind there is just kind of a muddy area that we used to keep our impound cars. Well, we've done an RFP last year, and now the impound cars are no longer housed here. They're housed at an impound lot. So it's a turnkey. We got them to do that. So that area we're going to actually pave to allow for more parking spaces, because we've added more police officers. So to allow for more parking for police vehicles as well as employees.
Okay.
And then the yard in the public works, the city's actually has put $400,000 aside to do a storage building for the public works. Then they can house all their vehicles in that storage building. They will actually demolish the one that's next to the fire coming in to next to where Glenn's office is, demolish that one. And then that will be like the storage for everything, for all their vehicles, for all their equipment and everything else. And then we will actually put more, because we can't pave that area due to Edwards aquifer requirements and so forth, because we're a recharge zone, but we can put gravel, type of things. And so we'll have parking for public works. So we have actually thought of what we're going to do in the next year to allow for more parking space, and free up some of this parking space for people to come and for these attractions that are here.
Yeah. And Joe, I'm like you, I don't visit that park back there, so I don't know how much it gets utilized, but from what I understand, actually from that meeting, the feedback we got from both Councilman Merchant and Mayor Whitehead and Marion was that it is being utilized, mainly for the smaller kids' birthdays. And so I think, and then we'll get to it here. Glenn, I guess, will probably give us a little background on, he's gotten a proposal for improvement there. It's probably in that age appropriate range that we're looking at. So, yeah, thank you for the feedback. Yeah, I think a committee on that side of things is definitely in order, because it's a very specific task. Okay, Melody?
I like the assessment. At first I wasn't in favor of it, but I am to just where we kind of have some kind of an idea of which way we should go if we're going to fund this.
Right.
So rather than, just from personal experience, just like the dog park, some of these costs have proved to be, not 100% true. So I think that's really gonna help us.
I agree. Yeah, and when you, and everything, I think, just like anything else, whenever you have a very broad, you don't have specifics on what you're going to do, everybody's going to aim high. So I think in trying to nail down exactly what we want to do is probably going to help us get our pricing more accurate as well.
Right. Yep.
Okay, John?
Considering that the last time that we made a decision that we thought was simple, that other people had to look at and it went poorly, I think we need to ask, we tried to just redo a sign and it turned into a debacle. I can't imagine us trying to make a decision here that involved actual money. So I think having some sort of master plan for the 1560 park, and doing some polling and for this park over here. I know that it is utilized. I've spent a fair bit of time back there, and I thought Greg had a good idea with the sport court back there. My understanding was that was not very well received, so that's good feedback. But just kind of some different ideas as to what we can do with it. That's my thought.
Okay. Melissa?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it is important to say if we're going to be heading it up or we're just giving money to the city and they move with it.
Right.
Because that's another cost.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, Greg?
I'm going to jump to a little different topic within here, which is the dog park. I was just curious if we have any information on how many dogs and cats are registered, where dogs are registered in the city of Helotes.
I can get you that information. I don't have that offhand, but we do have a database with the registration of all the dogs and cats that are here. Anyone that owns a dog or cat are supposed to register. Not that they all do, but we hope that majority of them do. So I can get you that number.
I'm thinking just if we're going to justify spending $50,000, that's quite a bit when it comes to entertainment for a dog.
Well, and I would like to actually point out, I received 2 quotes on doing a 50-foot by 100-foot dog park, and both of them came in at 100 to 130,000. So it was substantially more than what was initially presented to us, and that's
So then
2 different.
Fencing, or what is that? What's
That's if you do artificial,
Turf.
turf
the
and so forth,
AstroTurf is
Which-
extremely.
which we as the city don't recommend that. I mean, I know it was kind of presented with Dustin, but as we looked at it, it's something because you have to, how you have to clean it and how you have to maintain it. It will end up becoming very expensive for the city in the long run to be able to maintain that.
Yeah,
So we
Then-
would rather have just more of a natural
right.
grass type,
Then that brings into, it kind of goes into the master planning of like, okay, so how do we get it to be grass and not, dirt at this time of year,
Every dog park that I visited is turned to dirt.
Dirt.
Yeah.
I know there's one right here off of Hausman. You can go visit that one. There's nothing left.
Yeah, San Antonio's been doing a lot of mulch in their
Mulch.
dog parks,
Right.
try to help with the dirt and dust.
So I think there's, obviously some planning that needs to go into that, is it something that can be watered from the outside? What can be done to prevent it from turning into just a big dust pit, because I wouldn't take my dog out to a park just to go.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't want the liability of possibly grabbing, having them eat the wrong thing or.
Yeah. So that's all kind of goes into it. I'm sure this question's been asked, before by people besides us. So kind of goes into that thought. Okay, well, does it need more shade then? Do maybe the trees need to be implemented with this and, needs to be put in an area that's shadier. So all kinds of questions beget questions. Okay.
I agree.
Jeff?
So I'm not against us spending money at the parks or improving the stuff, but I am not in favor of spending any money at all until we have a master plan in place.
Okay.
I mean, I would be willing for us to spend some money towards a master plan, but I think it's not very good planning is if we just start piecemealing stuff together and it's not going to look right.
Right.
5,000-10,000, I don't know what a master plan would cost, but I think that would be a good investment up front to get this done before we even look at spending money on any projects at the park. And then if we do start spending money at the park, I think that the EDC should pay for the project, but then it becomes the city's for the city to maintain, like she was saying.
Yep.
I would say that if we're going to do it that way, though, that the city provides us invoices when it's paid for, and then we cut them a check, just like we do with the tenant improvement grant. They request what the dollar amount is. It's going to be, 50,000, 75,000. And then once they spend that money, then they give it to us and then we cut them a check. Then we don't just turn around and write them a blank check. So that we actually do what the costs are, not necessarily what the estimates
All
are.
right, with the estimates are.
Because it could come in for less, it could come in for more. But that would be my taking on it as well.
Okay, good. And I think, really and I think these are all great thoughts because and this is just my thoughts in, with the master plan. And again, we can start thinking about phasing of how we're going to do this over a period of years and budgeting for those based upon what that improvement is going to be the year. And then we can decide, well, maybe this is something that where EDC is going to take on and then just donate to the city or we have the city head it up. And again, I think it's going to be project specific about how difficult the projects are. So, and so really for tonight, thank y'all for everybody's feedback. It's all good. I think for tonight though, for what we need to do as far as direction go, what Glenn's looking for is right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the budget as presented does not have any allotment for park improvement in it, or it does?
I did include it in this
Okay.
presentation tonight.
Okay, good. So it's important for y'all to know that Glenn has put in there
Mhm.
the 57.5. Now that number is based on what?
So an estimate for the playground that was in your packet.
Okay.
tonight, which depending on if you include the surrounding mulch is somewhere between 21 to 30,000. And then having money for conceptual. Honestly, we haven't solicited for that to see the expense, but based on other projects we've done, I would say, 5 to 10,000 is likely. Just depending on the amount of detail you're trying to
Right.
get out of the master plan.
Okay. So I think that's important. I know that this is all kind of feeding into our budget approval item, which is 10. But I think it's important in this 9 and direction side. Has everybody looked at that proposal for the park equipment here in the City Hall Park?
So I did also look at it. I believe the one that Glenn presented to y'all are for age 5 to 12. And we're looking for actually under 5 and of course, the price is about the same. When we looked at it, it was about $3,000 more. The reason that it was presented at 60 is we were looking at actually two pieces of equipment, one for ages up to 2, and then one, another playground equipment for ages from 2 to 5, so that you're not having the bigger 5-year-old kids kind of, trampling over the younger ones. They both do fit. I talked to our public works director and they both do fit, but that's why I just wanted clarification on why it was 60,000. It wasn't for one piece of equipment. It was actually for two smaller pieces of equipment. So it would be ranges from 2 and then from 2 to 5. So when he spoke with one of the parks, one of the vendors, that's the price. And it was probably about 3,000 more than what Glenn proposed. So that's about the same price range of that. Doesn't matter, I guess, doesn't matter what age range it is. It goes about the same, if you're looking at that size, the capacity.
Mr. President.
Yes.
One thing I'm concerned about, I do support spending some money on this master plan, but when this is a master plan that on a project that's not ours, that park isn't EDC's. So we will spend money on a master plan, find out, get into this assessment, and then the park still isn't ours. So what we'll take this plan and present it to the city and say, from this plan, then we're interested in supporting ABC, but really ultimately, I mean, it's their park.
Right.
So that's my only reservation, is that a master plan typically is from our ownership. We don't own it, and it's
Right.
not ours. So but I understand
Yeah.
where everybody's coming from, but that's a little bit of a reservation about if it's an exorbitant amount of money to do this master plan. I can see if it's reasonable, 5,000-ish or a little, maybe below 10, but not a lot of money for on a plan that isn't our project. It's not in our strategic plan. It's not part of our goals.
And
That's where I'm just coming
And
from.
our thing is that even as a city, the apprehension of what EDC, you like you said, it is a city park. And so EDC, if you come back and say, we want a whole, basketball court or whatever else, and then that's not what the city, that's not the goals of the city also, or whatever else. So there needs to be some communication between city council as well as the board on what projects we're looking at, because the master plans, it's going to differ on depending on what projects or what, items you're going to put at the park. If
Right.
it's going to be a dog park, if it's going to be playground, if it's going to be, they need direction on that. And so the city also doesn't want to come back, do this plan, and then EDC be like, oh yeah, that's not anything we want to fund because we want to see this, you know what I mean? So it needs to be some kind of compromise and collaboration
Yes.
between, like, I think Glenn and I talked about having an actual board that's basically a couple of board members, a couple of council members.
Right.
We can't have more than 2 council members
Right.
on that committee because we have quorum. Y'all can't, I think it's 3. So it's whatever number. And so having that committee, and then Glenn and I are the staff that represents, the staff part of it. And then we, as the city, can say what we can commit to also, what we can maintain with our staffing and what we can continue to maintain with budgeting and so forth, depending on what that project is.
What we discussed, or we had talked about at our last meeting, was we wanted to have a committee.
Right.
That is exactly what we want to do.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that it's our master plan. I'm saying that this committee that we had talked about, they work with the city, and the city does the master plan. And we can put money towards help paying for that master plan. It's not our master plan because it's going to be their park. But I personally need to see what the city's vision is for
Right.
this. I will say, I'm not throwing money at the city and say, go do what you want. I
Right.
want us to be able to see what the master plan is, and then I'm willing to look at it and take it on. But without
Right.
them just saying, well, we're going to do this with just nothing. I think that if, for us, I think we need to have more evidence before we.
I agree.
And what I would suggest is like you're saying, is basically to have this budget line item, to have whatever you need a pot of money in there. So the pot of money needs to, I think, what I suggest is whatever amount it is, if it's 50,000, 100,000, whatever. And I'm just putting them, saying, okay, we're putting this money there because we don't know how much these projects are going to cost. We don't know how much, like you said, the city, if it's the city's master plan, city contributes 50% and EDC contributes 50%, whatever that is. And so that you put a pot of money in there, that's not saying the city's you're gonna write a check for that, but then after that master plan, as we complete those projects, like you're saying, we come back with an invoice, but at least the money's there for us to come back with that invoice.
But I would
Whatever
think,
projects.
I understand what you're saying. We put a line item in the budget, but just because it's in the budget doesn't mean it's spent.
Correct.
I would say before y'all go and bring us an invoice for, hey, we put 100,000 in there, they bring us an invoice. Here's 90,000. We did this playground equipment. If we haven't agreed that we're going to pay for that, then the city gets nothing. I would say I don't have a problem with us putting in the budget, but before we can spend it, we're going to have to vote on it as a board.
Exactly. And the council would have to vote on it,
Because
as
it's
a
over
council.
$10,000.
Exactly. So that's why having a committee with that representation to give direction for that master plan, to me, that's the best way, but there needs to be a line item.
Right.
And like you said, that doesn't mean it needs to be spent, just like your improvement intended or your arts grant. That doesn't mean it gets spent. If you get all these applications and none of them meet the criteria or
Right.
the direction that the EDC board is going, then you're not gonna spend that money.
Sure.
So that should be the same kind of line item.
Another concern is, to me, this looks like this could be a really big project. And we already have a big project that meets our strategic plan, and that's our business and visitor center. So I'm very concerned about the bandwidth that our director has.
Yep.
And all of us have on something like this. So just something for all of us to think about, because I think maybe if we could push this out until next year, we've got the ball rolling on the visitor center, business center, but to take on anything more, I just don't see. I mean, I'm already on 5 committees and the board.
Yeah. My
I mean,
thoughts on it, on that
so-
part, Melody, I definitely hear your concern on it. Bandwidth is always a concern, but I think on the planning side, like we can start that now. I think what's going to happen with the actual implementation part of it, it's not going to be,
Good.
it's not going to be this, like,
Good.
I don't see anything big coming on,
Right. And if we put the line item in there and say we put 50,000 in there.
Right.
And we start the planning and it winds up that it's this time next year, we haven't spent that 50,000.
roll it
So
in.
we can roll it over to the following year.
Right.
Just because it's in the item doesn't mean we have to spend it.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I know,
Yeah.
I agree.
But I think we need to do our due diligence for planning and everything before we spend money on big projects.
I agree.
I think we need to find out what the community wants and what the community needs. That to me is a very vital part of all this. We can make all the planning we want. If you build it, doesn't mean they're going to come, and they might see it as a waste of funds. So
And that's another thing, we need to find what that community, because I think it's 2 things. It's the community that we're supporting, which is our residents and citizens, but it's also the community that we're trying to attract into our city. You know what I mean? So we definitely need to define that and how we're going to get that, you know what I mean? Input and feedback from because it is 2 different groups that we're looking at. Glenn and I talked about that. It is going to be for both, the citizens that live here, the residents that live here, but also whoever we're trying to attract into the city.
does Placer tell
Placer could
us?
tell us that, who came to
Yeah.
the park
Yeah,
over there.
Who's
on
using it?
1560 and then went to B-Daddy's.
right.
At lunch or whatever it is, right? This is an example, but they should be able to tell us that, right? At least that's how it was presented to us.
As long as there's sufficient data.
Data.
So as long as there's sufficient,
There's not enough people that do it, then
Yeah, visitors, that are being tracked, then yes, they. can.
It's not Harburger Park. I mean, I don't think that it's a destination park for most people.
Mm-mm.
It is only for the disc golf. You're surprised how many people actually play disc golf, and we are the only one. And there's actually teams that do disc golf. I was surprised when I came here. I was like, why is that even a thing?
as we were having that discussion, he's like, well, the parking may do something that actually disrupts the disc golf or maybe changes it, but then, it's been in that same layout for so long. It's like, hey, maybe they actually could use a little,
Freshening up.
yeah, a little Jack Nicklaus course action on
Change
it.
the holes up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I did play disc golf, and the closest one from here is Nanny Falcon. And that whole disc golf course will fit in one of the smallest of those boxes there. So this is a practice course.
You're right. Just aiming course.
Beginner's course.
Yeah. So really, I mean, I think what I'm hearing, and this goes into what we're here to do, is give direction. So the first, I think the biggest thing, I love the committee idea, and we can have 3 members from ours, and we can have 2 from council. And I'm going to be a little bit selfish in this. I'd love to be on this committee because that kind of falls in my wheelhouse of expertise in dealing with land development and understanding that aspect of it. So I'd love to be on that committee.
I would like to be on it as well.
Okay. Jeff, do you have anybody that's just like gung ho, want to get on it, except for Melody because she's already on 5?
I think I'll do that too.
Okay. So me, Jeff, and Greg will be, we're the volunteers for that committee, and that's the direction on that side, which is great. So I'm all excited about that.
What are we going to call ourselves?
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Community enhancement.
Community Enhancement
There you
Committee.
You got it.
I like it.
Playground guys.
The playground guys. Yeah. Playground gang, yeah.
You need shirts,
Yeah.
shirts, good shirts.
We could have fun with that. Good. Okay, so that's good direction on that end. The second part of the direction is now we need to get understand, or we need to make a decision. Do we want to put right now, Glenn, as the budget is presented, and just because I want to be very open with everybody, we do have a park and playground equipment line item in our budget to be approved here on item 10 of $57,500. Now, as I understand it, that's going to cover the immediate need. Now, when I say immediate need, I think everybody needs to take I know it's a little late now because we're going to be voting. I mean, I don't have an issue with EDC taking the lead on just improving the situation that's there. I'm not a take credit kind of guy, but if we wanted to put a nice little sign, just say, park improvements provided by Helotes Economic Development Corp. I'm all for it. There's a lot of mystery of what we do, honestly, with all members here. There's a lot of mystery about what we do, and all that it's understood for most outside is, well, you collect the tax money, but we don't know where it goes, and we don't have any really visuals, many visuals to understand what's happening with those tax dollars. So I personally feel this is a good, and it's not in our direct, we do have a quality of life item, as part of our strategic plan. And this is, to me, fits in within that. Now, I don't get a vote on this as a president, unless y'all get torn. So, but that's just my personal on it, is I don't mind putting this money in there, in the playground equipment being the first priority for replacement there. Obviously, I think the committee part of it is going to need to decide what needs to happen, because I can see there's a little bit of disparity about what actual improvement needs to happen there. So I think that would be the first committee's priority is, okay, this kind of goes to Jeff, says we got the money there, but we don't have to spend it, but let's figure out what we should do first. And then we can figure out whether it's what Glenn has here or an enhancement of what Glenn has here. And then we put the money aside for, we'll put an RFP out, and then an RFP itself could probably take, what do we usually advertise those out for? RFQs.
I mean, 30 to 45 days.
Okay,
Mhm.
that we would put it out to the parks design world for them to submit their qualifications in for that, because it is going to have to go out for a request for qualification since it's a public bid. So the thing that you'll be voting on, so this is the direction part. And so whenever whoever makes a motion on the next one can either take the budget as presented with the 57.5 in there, or amend the motion to change that number. So just letting you know that's what happens on number 10. Yes, Joe.
I don't have the original budget in front of me here. Can you tell us, Glenn, what was adjusted on the
As soon as we get
budget
to that,
here to make room for the 57.5?
yes, as soon as we get to that item,
Yeah.
happy to.
Okay.
Blaine's
Yeah.
skipping ahead a little.
Yeah, it kind of, but not really. So, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear, because it's always hard, right? Because you got to open up that motion for approval or amend your motion, and then end on that, we all know that you can also amend your original motion. So that's always possible as well. So just because you say something, whatever we come out of what Joel's questionnaire on it, it may change your thoughts a little bit. So with that, I think we can close discussion. Again, we have no action on item number 9. So we can close the discussion. Great discussion, everybody. I always enjoy our talks. And I think on the direction part of it is really going to be, let's get the committee going ASAP, and then we'll figure out what happens with number 10. All right, so I'm going to read out number 10 is written here. Discussion of and action on a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation approving appropriations for the fiscal year ending 2024, maintenance and operating, interest and sinking, and capital budgets for fiscal year ending 2024. Proposed EDC budgets include economic development projects as defined by the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 505, Type B corporations, and authorizing the executive director to take all necessary steps to implement and provisions of the resolution, incorporating recitals, providing for severability, and adopting an effective date. All right, so the item is there in your packet that is for that. So your packet should include the budget. Bringing it up on my screen, sorry. And I could just to make sure we're all looking at the same thing. It's not the budget. Is it towards the very bottom?
Page 38.
Okay. That's where it's. Oh, there you go. Okay, very good. Okay, so everybody sees the budget, which we have a total revenue that we're anticipating of 3.676 million and a total expenditure of 3.676 million. So it is balanced as shown. As we discussed, the 57.5 is there and for the park and playground equipment. And that's a kind of a general, I would say a general line item name. There's obviously planning that could fall under that same line item. So with that, I will entertain a motion for discussion of an action on approval of the budget as presented.
I move that we accept the budget as presented with the total of $3,676,000 in and out.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I will second the motion.
Okay.
It's 7:46.
Sorry. Okay, so we have a motion and second for discussion, and I want to be fair to Joel in this.
Yeah, I can go through.
Yeah.
So the biggest one was on the revenue side. We have a transfer in, if you'll notice, kind of at the bottom of the revenue, $300,000. And that was utilized some to offset the 57.5 for parks and playground, as well as the tenant improvement grant carryover, the art grant carryover, and the e-commerce grant.
So Glenn, just to be clear, that transfer in is actually money out of reserves.
Correct. So it's, yes.
And here will be my question is after, if we do this $300,000 transfer in from reserve, what will be our reserve balance approximately? I don't need an exact number.
So for this fiscal year, we're going to have likely a pretty substantial add to our bottom line. I would say somewhere between 700 to $1 million. So I think we're at $3 million on reserves.
Okay.
That's all.
So you're at 3 million now and then,
Now,
yeah,
and then-
so it'll be close to
yeah.
4 million.
So the transfer in really is funds, a lot of that is funds unspent from last year.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Yes.
Just carry over from unspent stuff.
Good.
Yeah. The other specific line item, capital improvements, went up, and that's where I felt more comfortable putting the traffic circle improvements, because it's as a result of the art, but it's not necessarily the art itself.
I got you.
It's a more infrastructure improvement.
Right. So this is not the actual piece of art, but the retaining wall that will go around it. Okay. I would agree. Yeah, I'd like keeping those separate as well. Okay, we're good. That's a good, Joel, you got any more questions on that end of it?
I don't know that helps. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good. Well, I have a motion and a second for approval of the budget as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Very good. Great discussion. Good motion. All right, so we'll move on to, all right, we get to have some fun here at the end. Discussion of an action on the election of officers for the EDC Board of Directors as required by the EDC restated and amended Articles of Incorporation. Article 10, Board of Directors, including but not limited to President, Vice President, and Secretary. All right, so I guess it's me, John, and Melody that are up for re-election. So it's been a year since I guess we did this, or is it every 2 years?
It's 1 year.
2 years.
It's every year.
Every year.
It just felt like yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so how do we do this, Glenn? Do we have to individually do them for each one, or is it all done at once? Or does somebody do a nomination for somebody? Tell
So,
me the cleanest way.
yeah, we have done it before where an individual will nominate those 3 positions, and then those individuals can either confirm or not,
Okay.
if they desire to run. And then you take a vote.
Okay, very good.
Do y'all still want the same positions?
I'm good with it. Thumbs up, Melody?
Yes.
All right,
Can we just do a
I move we
sweeping
keep the
action?
same 3 officers.
I'll second.
There you
all right.
Good.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you all very much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so now we get to our staff report. So Glenn, latest on the visitors and business center. I see that I've seen a dumpster out there, possibly.
go. We had someone over the weekend, yes, decide to fill it up to the top or over the top.
Oh, they filled it up with their own stuff.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Somebody evidently demolished their own fence and then threw it in our dumpster. But yeah, well,
Do we by chance have that on camera?
Yeah, we did.
I don't know that.
We do? Oh, so we're gonna go after them then?
I don't know. We're going after him, Glenn.
Luckily, the Republic still picked it up. It wasn't a big deal for the driver, but usually they don't like going over the top. So yes, the demolition's been fully completed. Right now, what I put on the dais was still a preliminary floor plan. There's a few minor tweaks. I think the executive committee had met, asked the architect to adjust, but it's relatively close, I think, to what we approved. It'll likely take a couple of weeks for him to do all of his construction documents, and then we will bid it out. We've been able to get 6 leasable, potentially 6 leasable offices. 2 of the larger rooms, one's a 10 by 13 and another's a 13 by 13. Could be considered flex, so whether it could be used for a small conference room, it could be used for a shareable hot desk, could be used for a private office. I'm gonna say first come, first serve. I actually have someone that might be interested if they do not find another lease space around Helotes and leasing one or both of those offices.
Which could you reference those as the number, office number?
Yes, that would be number 5 and 6.
Gotcha.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
you could fit multiple. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, so you can tell 5 and 6 are kind of bigger than the rest of them, which, you know, I tried to play around with the floor plan myself and trying to figure out how to make those smaller. But, you know, I started thinking about it. Not everybody's going to want those itty bitty offices. There probably is a user out there that says, yeah, I need a 10 by 10 or 10 by 13 space. So
Yes,
at the end of the day, it didn't really bother me.
and knocking 2 feet out of one.
Yeah, it just doesn't do anything.
Anything in
No.
our space.
You're just making that space worse. You know, you might as well make it a very nice space and charge a premium lease rate for it.
And then we were able to get in 2 of the Zoom rooms and a talk box. The talk box is just a private space to have a conversation with a client. It'll be sound insulated and all that kind of stuff. The Zoom rooms are actually flexible at the size that we have on the floor plan. It could be a private office. It's technically big enough. There's many co-working spaces out there right now that the smallest office is a 6x6. Our intent is to rent them out by the hour and be a video conference room. And again, they will be sound insulated. We do have storage, mop sink. We have 2 ADA compliant bathrooms. There's an office, obviously for myself, and then for the chamber.
My question is the bottom right office wishful thinking? You hoping
Oh,
for
no.
assistant?
Yeah. That was one of the first things I saw too, Jeff. Yeah, I was like, dang, you demoted yourself, man.
I wish I could have. So yeah, the architect took one of my old business cards.
That's really funny.
I do have new business cards, by the way. So, and then the meeting room that we have up front, it can easily, in a traditional conference room style, fit, I believe it's 16 around the perimeter. Classroom style, it can fit a little bit more. We are looking right now as having, I don't want to call it an expandable wall. It's a sliding glass wall or slide and fold. So we could open the space up into what he has labeled as a workroom. That again is kind of going to be our visitor center. So
Is there gonna be furniture in there like for?
there'll be some furniture,
Like
lounge furniture or whatever.
Okay.
And then we'll have other displays on wheels that are easily movable to definitely make the space flexible. We are going to put in the plan a kind of an ad alternate for an island. I think right there in front, because where you see that large counter, it's kind of our cafe or kitchen, whatever you want to call it. But we've discussed about keeping it really clean as far as having under counter refrigerators. I don't know if we need an ice machine or anything. The only thing on the counter, you have the sink and the coffee maker, pretty much. So it's not going to be a traditional kitchenette for an office. The door right now, if you're familiar with the space, there's a garage, a roll-up garage door. That'll be replaced with a new storefront. I think the architect's actually recommending replacing all 4 storefronts because 2 of them already have doors and are going to need to be replaced. So that only left 1 extra. His feeling, honestly, is that it's a cheap storefront right now. It's a single pane glass. He thinks we really need to consider going up to a low E double, insulated.
A real storefront.
To put double doors.
I have asked about doing that. Yeah, have one that's on a
Lockable.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Top
It'd be-
one.
For putting furniture in?
Yes, putting furniture in, or if you're gonna have a bunch of people in
Yeah.
and out, it just.
Yeah. That's a great idea, Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's so y'all know that dash line that you kind of see going through the left side of the building, that's where the current wall is at.
So it can be done in 2 phases. So they can do all of phase 1, which would be the right side of the space, with us still officing where we are. And then once it's done, move over and then they can finish it out. There's a dash line toward the front too, where the front door is. The architect's actually going to propose doing some, awning or storefront improvements to put a cover.
Jeez.
And then we'll reach out to the landlord to see if he's open to it. Give us a little more visibility, honestly, with the architects, that'd call attention to the spot.
Cool. Do we need to do any sidewalk work or anything out in front?
Where it would be good idea is over here on the side where you have the wooden steps coming
Stairs.
down. It would actually be ideal to redo that and then to put a small sidewalk to the asphalt because, yeah, when it rains, it
Money.
is muddy and this is overflow parking.
Would that need to be handicap accessible if we did that?
Most likely.
Not this,
Not
yes,
the
because
side
you have,
You could-
technically you can pull in the parking lot and there is,
Handicap
there's
spot.
two ramps.
The ramp that goes in the,
Yes,
from the parking lot to.
from here, no, but the front of the space.
So if
does.
you're doing the steps, I believe if you're using this as overflow, then you'll need something. I mean, am I wrong, Blaine?
It probably should, you know, right, and it's kind of,
What about the parking the city's gonna be doing out there?
Yeah.
Aren't they doing a nose in parking?
Mhm.
We're gonna do, yeah, we had looked at parallel, but we're gonna try to see if we can get the nose in. We don't know if we have enough space.
Are they gonna include a
Not-
sidewalk with that across the front of that at all, or?
Not the
That's
plan
not-
I've seen.
It's not fun.
yeah, you know, I like where your thoughts are, and Jeff, is like, I really would like the flow between City Hall and the EDC office visitor center to be very easy or very welcoming to people, because I would love for people, because the City Hall building, I love it here. I would love for people, that visitors or business, whoever it may be able to easily commute between the two buildings safely.
And the other part of your question too, there is a drainage issue right in front of this, lease space. So the builder's going to look at either boring a hole under one of the curbs to allow the water to flow out, or it may have to require, some sidewalk.
Because I know if it rains hard, you get water inside the current building now.
Correct. Some of that will be resolved because it comes in under especially the door that's on that end.
Right.
That'll be a new storefront. It won't be a door. But we are trying to address all those little issues.
Okay.
Do you know what the max capacity of this is? Like if you've got all these office filled and.
Like the
People,
occupant load,
number, yeah.
Honestly, 10 is what I think will be on a ongoing basis potentially. Obviously, if you've got a workshop or someone using the conference room, we can definitely escalate to 25, 30.
Are we going to be limited on our occupancy as far as from the city side?
So fire marshal's gonna come out and he'll determine by square footage and so
Okay.
forth what the total occupancy is.
And that may be where we have to do the double door too.
Yeah.
Allow for that.
And if it does, you know, let's be real, people will probably park over here if that parking's full. So it kind of goes back to just make sure we got an easy, safe route for everybody to travel.
So that we can get those numbers.
I was studying this floor plan. It's good. That one door though, you've told the architect about that on office number one there.
Yes.
Right, Lynn? Yeah, office number one, we'll move that door away from going out towards the restrooms to going out to the workroom there.
Yeah, he initially did that because the direction that was given to try to create more wall space because it's chopped up to a point where there's not a lot for display and stuff. So that's why he
Oh, I got
moved it
you.
around the corner.
I got you.
It doesn't, I agree. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And we just, and this is still an evolution of it, but at some point, Glenn, what would be great for all of us to get is something with furniture actually shown in there, so we can start getting an idea of what space looks like. Because it's not till you see how big desk, normal desk looks. And
So his other version had furniture and I told him there was comments that this one didn't have furniture and like, what happened to the space?
yeah, yeah, but it's important for us to see just how that's all going to lay out.
Mhm.
Because as us all being in the working world, can get an understanding of like how usable these spaces are, or something that we may see that says, yeah, this is going to make it really hard on whoever is using that office, may make it undesirable. But I think it's a square, let's say from an engineer standpoint, I love squares.
And then I think the next item is regarding marketing. Just wanted to let everyone know that Yellow did come out a couple weeks ago, did all the filming. That episode airs October 7th.
Oh, wow.
and 8th. And man, had fun out at Helotes Hill Country Zip Line. They too have a championship disc golf course.
Oh,
that
championship.
They host tournaments. So I think they've got a women's. tournament
Salvies has a small,
This
small
month.
place too.
Oh, man.
What all businesses were done?
Just golf.
Capital. So we did Hill Country Zip Lines, we did Cracked Mug, we did Helotes Country Club and Helotes Beer Garden.
Awesome.
We did Cheetah Lish, and we did the Meadows.
Okay.
We had offered and selected another restaurant, and he declined kind of last minute to participate. So
Okay. Well, with the new businesses and some developments that we have coming in, maybe in the next here in the future, we'll be ready for a third episode, with the new stuff. So all good.
I did forget, Helotes 0.5K is going to have one segment, but
Oh,
the
that's
chamber had already
For that.
paid for the footage. Yeah, from last year.
Very good.
And then on the arts grant,
Grant.
I do have the contract signed by the artist.
Yeah.
And signature tonight. She's agreed to all the terms. We have made a few minor modifications. I gotta admit, it was a pretty lengthy, like 18-page contract. And so she's already submitted another kind of aerial layout of the space. She said she's gonna kind of fine tune it and submit that. And she's already kind of started on some of the components. And then we've asked her to provide us with some type of template for the base too, on how the footings need to be installed. Because I would like to honestly start working on the traffic circle as soon as this next fiscal year starts and get that done, knowing that she's going to take 8 to 10 months.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's exciting, you start doing improvements to the traffic circle, it's going to get people wondering like, hey, what's going on? It's coming and.
Because then we can get a project board up, we can get the advertisement for the bricks, the paver program and all that.
I have a question, Glenn, on the first grant, the art grant.
Yes.
Has the city identified the new placement?
I haven't been provided anything, and I was actually gonna even bring that up for another discussion. To see if there's alternate locations that we would consider putting it. And it honestly came to me when I was driving down Riggs Road. The city owns a lot of right of way down Riggs Road, where we have a sidewalk that kind of meanders around. I didn't know if that would potentially be a better spot or,
Yeah, we'd have to
doing the
look at just.
playground. You could get them closer together so you can see what the thought process is behind each piece. If we
Master
all the
plan is
pieces
part.
are installed.
Yeah, I'd put those in there.
The Trinity Glen Rose, they were actually impressed with the pieces. She did ask they're like the Edwards Aquifer, it's the Trinity Glen Roads Aquifer Authority. Yeah, and they're going to help do the videos about the educational component behind them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's and maybe it's weird as I drive by them more and more often. It's just I guess it becomes you become used to it. I'm like, maybe it's not that bad, It's kind of strange. The more you see them, they're kind of growing on me a little bit, but I'm not very artistic. You don't know that, so.
Them being closer together, in a sequence.
Right.
Yeah, it tells a story. It looks good. Riggs, I know what you're talking about. That's a good area.
Yeah, where
Look
those
at
little
the
parking
area.
spaces are at, what's nice about that is there's a lot of I'll call it dead space.
Mhm.
That is the part, the sidewalk makes a big out that leaves a big space in there. That'd be pretty nice.
So actually, Public Works has identified an area near the playground, the trail that goes around there. That's where they would like to put it because we can't put it near the equipment area, you know what I mean? It wouldn't make sense, but to attract the kids, and be in that playground area. So instead of on that side of the playground, on this side of it and doing it there and doing it along the trail so that
Okay.
as people are walking along that trail area, should be enough space there to get those in there.
Okay.
So that would be, I
Yeah.
do like the area you're talking about. off
I'd
of
like to
Riggs.
bring it back for consideration.
So what we could
Pictures.
do is we could, I'll get with Glenn and we can walk it ourselves, me and you,
Mhm.
and then, and Corey, our Public Works Director, so that we could see what areas that we would like to put it in and make sure that there's enough space. And then we can come back with presenting it for y'all to look at. And then once y'all pick a spot, we will bring it to council just to get their sign off on it, because, so they can know that this is, we're, especially if it's off of rigs and stuff like that.
Right.
In the park, it's not, I don't think council has any problem with that, but when we're going to other right of ways,
Right.
something like that is picked.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I'm sure the piece in the traffic circle is going to turn out awesome. If we can somehow keep the same artist and produce smaller pieces to put onto those pedestals in the same motif, may make more sense there in Old Town.
Mhm.
So, but they're it's all put together. There's some funkiness to them, but they're not terrible. So.
They've grown on you.
Yeah, they're growing on me. So I guess I've just been looking at them too much. Okay. Any other updates?
No, that's it for now.
So that brings us to the end of the agenda. It's 8:09. Are adjourned.